certain button over here. And we're going to get started here in 2.
And to be exactly what you want to be without all of the fear around you. We have to stand up together.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Chairman Project with Jason Sisneros. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I wanted to just shout out. We've the show has been doing really great. The replays. Now that we are on all of the things, what happens is I'm live right now on Twitter or x.com. at the J Sisneros. And at the top, you'll always find last week's show pinned, and then come around Thursday or Friday, you'll see it pinned to the top for the show that we're going to do on Saturday, which we do live every single Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And it's just been a great show. If you're there live, which I highly suggest, at the end of the show, what happens is we go off a screen here and we do a Q&A with the audience that happens to be there live. People bring their business ideas. I have special guests. Like today, I've got Tony Watley in the house. We've got our traditional co-hosts, Sid and Tony and Joe Callow, the president of Anton J, my consulting company, is with us this weekend. And there's great conversations that happen. So make sure you do your best to come and join us live. And we have, again, a really, really good time. Great cast of characters. And we have a lot of amazing conversations that can move your company forward. So let's get into the content today. What we're going to be talking about, the title of this show is The Power of Asking for Help. And, week to week, those of you that don't know me and you're new to the show, I own a company called Anton J Global, Anton J, Anton JAE.com. And we've been helping companies for years. I used to build companies. My career started in turnarounds, and then I started buying companies for myself, turning around, keeping them as an asset. Sold back in 2019, and have been fully committed recently for about the last 8 years. I'm an undercover operator with CERT Ministries. We go in and rescue kids. That's what I've been able to do with my freedom. And this show is all about that. It's all about talking about how you can utilize this amazing tool called small business to free yourself financially to do the things that you want to do in life, right? There's 3 types of exit. My new book that's going to be coming out shortly is called Built to Exit. Those of you that want the show notes that I prep during the week for this show, I do a lot of preparation. I do a lot of research. And those of you that want the show notes every week can go to built2exit.biz, built2exit.biz, and you can put your email in there and you'll get my show notes. And then the edited podcast will be in that as well. And so every single week you can get that information. And we're here talking about freedom. We're here talking about how you can set yourself free. Whether you own a business, I'm starting to see that we've got, CEOs, people that work in businesses that want to make more money, people that are looking around that concept of freeing yourself financially. That's the reason that I can live the life that I live. That's the reason why I can go and rescue kids. So after 2019, I fully committed to 2 things: really fighting bullies, but freeing kids. I work in anti-domestic violence, and I also work in feeding people with Feed a Billion. And we have Anton J and Built to Exit so that we can help business owners free themselves. My concept is very simple, right? We live in a country, those of you, I know we have overseas people that watch the show on replay because of the timing, but I want everybody to understand the intent. Why are we here week after week? Why are we doing this? And it comes back down to the idea. I did a podcast this last week with a presidential candidate, and he was asking me really great questions, right? And I think it's our duty, it's your duty, it's my duty to pick up our civic duty to be able to give feedback to the people that are supposed to be representing us. We've got it a little upside down in our country right now, where the people that are leading the country, it is a company, by the way, but that are leading they've forgotten that they work for us, right? And it just goes back to a very simple concept, an amazing, beautiful document called the Constitution. And as I was speaking to him, he said, well, what do you love about the Constitution, and what does that have to do with business, right? Why are you so passionate about it? Well, the Constitution, in my opinion, is simply just an anti-consolidation document, right? What do I mean by that? It's an anti-consolidation document. And what are the two things that when somebody consolidates too much of it, what are the two things when somebody consolidates too much of it that it causes problems? It's two things: wealth and power. Wealth and power. And so when too much wealth and too much power consolidates in the hands of too few, it's never good for the rest of us. The small business community, you who are watching this show, somebody who's thinking about starting a company, somebody who's a one man or one woman band, somebody that's running an organization that's got 10 people, 50 people, 300 people, it doesn't really matter. You owning a business is a blatant act of rebellion. That's why I love coming to do this show, because everybody that's listening live, y'all are rebels. Right? It's a blatant act of rebellion. Rebellion against what? The consolidation of wealth and power in too many. You're fighting against it. We have 33 million companies in this country, in the United States of America, that are designated as an SME, small to medium-sized enterprise. That simply means 0 employees to 499. You get over 499, now you're a large enterprise. Okay? But that is an act of rebellion, right? That's an act of rebellion. And it started back in 1890 with a simple act, the very first time in the human history that a centralized government stood up to the consolidation of too much wealth and power. It was happening in our country. Everybody's like, oh, what changed the world? 1776. No, it wasn't. It was 1890 with a simple act called the Sherman Act that said that the business playing field needed to be fair and equitable to anybody that joined, so that you could keep that consolidation of power out of too many, because you've seen it in countries, in history. If you read a history book anywhere throughout history, you see when the wealthy and the powerful, usually they're merged together, then bad things happen for the general electorate. Bad things happen. You can look at communist countries. You can look at what happened in Venezuela. You can look at, there's a multitude of those things. And so when we talk about the American dream, in my mind, the American dream is that you can come here and you can make it, right? You have the freedom of religion, you have the freedom of speech, you have the Second Amendment, you have all of those things. But we don't talk about, the reason that this podcast exists is so that we can talk about and keep alive the rebellion of small and mid-sized companies. All that means is that with you owning your business, and why I'm so passionate about talking to you and giving you tools and bringing you amazing leaders and bringing you amazing conversations, is so that you understand and can take those tools and keep free, not to go out of business, right? We have a terrible track record over the history since they went back and started measuring it. 95% of companies fail. We need to change that number. 95% of people. So I'm talking to the 5%ers. Right? I'm talking to the 5%ers, the rebels of this country that have this belligerent refusal to be controlled. That's you. If you're listening to this, if you watch this, if you watch more than one episode of my show, you are not a compliant person. You're not going to fall into line. You are engaged in an act of rebellion with your small business. Independent access to capital is one of the core tenets of freedom. Independent access to capital, to be able to make your money, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, to be able to start a small business and to play the same game that the multinationals are playing, and to play the same game that the people that are wealthy in your neighborhood and have built something and are employing people. You are part of the 60% of the GDP of the largest, most powerful economic engine in history, the United States. You are responsible for 60% of the hiring. You are not insignificant. And the world tries to tell you that you are insignificant and tries to tell you just because you're one, This is where we band together. This idea, the Chairman Project, the podcast is about the project of making sure that you're part of the 5%. It's a project for us to all come together and start doing business with each other, to stop arming the multinationals, stop doing business with the Amazons of the world, start doing business with each other so that we can maintain this battle that we are all engaged in. And so for you to understand that concept and understand you are part of a bigger crowd. I look back to what happened during COVID, and I saw our leaders and I saw the multinationals band together like they do in every failing society since the beginning of time, band together to protect each other. And I watched 33 million companies get told that they were non-essential. It pissed me off. And then I was like, okay, who's standing there? Who's battling for these people? Who's coming together? Who's standing up? Nobody. You had people in government who really have never run a business and don't understand how. They're spending the tax dollars by 60% of the GDP that was created by you and me and all of our brothers and sisters around this country that have the guts to start a business and to risk their houses, their credit, their reputation, to have a chance, to take a chance at playing a game that 95% fail at. And it pissed me off. And it made me go, okay, let's see what representations are there out there, right? What this is going to grow into, what it is growing into is something that I'm calling the UBA, the Unstoppable Business Alliance, where we all gather together, we make sure that each other survive, we help each other, we learn the best tools and skills that we possibly can to have this thing to be able to set you free. You being free is the reason that this podcast exists. You, the person listening, the person watching this on replay or on iHeartRadio or Spotify or wherever you're going to end up hearing my words, it's about you. You are part of this battle. And we don't find each other because we're busy, right? The fact that somebody shows up here, the people that show up here live, that they take an hour and a half out of their day to learn is an extraordinary responsibility that I take extremely seriously. Because this is our act of rebellion. It's us doing business with each other, buying the stuff that we have to sell, whether it's HVAC or whether it's coaching or whether it's business consulting or whether it's yoga or whether it's somebody running for president who's always here on this podcast. Whatever it is, we've got to do business with each other. But we're busy, and I understand that. And so the content is targeted towards you. I know I've walked this path. I've walked this path in my own life. I started a company, I failed. I started a company, I failed. I started another one, I failed. And then I got the awesome opportunity to travel the country with Tony Robbins as one of his speakers, and I got to meet the most incredible business minds in the world. I modeled what they had. I kept exactly what I did to fail in each one of my bankruptcies. I combined those two things together, and that gave me the opportunity. And this is what I want to talk about. The Constitution stands for three things: liberty, justice, and prosperity. That's the whole idea. Through anti-consolidation strategies and methods and thought processes. Liberty, the very act of being free. We don't know how lucky we have it. We don't look back through history and we don't look at what we exist in and what we're doing. We don't look at it and we don't go, man, having liberty is a very unique and powerful new idea in the entire calendar of mankind. Justice, the rule of law, right? The rule of law that sets standards. This law that was passed back in 1890, the Sherman Act, that then led into 1914 with the Clayton Act, that became the FTC Act to stop consolidation of too much power and too much wealth in the hands of too few businesses. That led and extended into 1936 with the Robinson-Patman Act. Right? And that led to a great book that I quote quite often on my shows called The Constitution of Liberty by F.A. Hayek. Right? These concepts, we're part of that history, that rich history, and men and women that came before us to fight to make sure that you had the ability to be able to generate wealth and freedom for you and your family, no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your sexual preference is, no matter where you come from, the wrong side of the tracks, the right side of the tracks. You have that ability with this thing called small business. This is your tool. This is your weapon. in the fight for freedom. And I don't hear anybody talking about it from this perspective. I don't hear anybody speaking loud and proud about the fact that we are the ones that are the economic engine to this country, to the economic freedom for the people. Why so many people want to come here? Why so many people that are here fighting day in and day out? They're risking to be able to start a business. I have so much respect. And I'm honored to be a part of this community where we all fight the same battle. But we have to come together. These live shows, come and be a part of the party. Come and be part of the conversation. Because it's important that we're talking to each other. It's important that we know each other exist. It's important that we do business with each other. Yes, it might cost a little bit more money to do business with somebody that's not a multinational. But guess what? If it's cheaper for about 5 years, and then all of a sudden you're out of business and you can't do business, and at the end of the day, you don't have enough money to buy that cheaper stuff. Was it really cheaper? Is it really cheaper for us to trade our independent access to capital for some convenience of something showing up on our doorstep 1 day later or 2 days later, for it being 20% cheaper? Or what is it really worth us trading in our sovereignty and our freedom to then eventually just play this out, y'all? Play it out to the end. Play it out to the end and see that you will either be working for or begging from a multinational that is coordinated with a corrupt centralized government, right? We got to be that rebellion. This is not just a game for me. This is not just a podcast. This is not just another thing for me to do. I could have gotten out of the game in 2019. I'm here fighting because I believe this is our battle. I had an old podcast. It was called The Bald Avenger Show. I was talking about all kinds of freedom when people weren't talking about it. Now more people are. My lane is business. I freed myself, and I have a blueprint for you to be able to free yourself. We talk about it here every single Saturday. We give tips and tools and strategies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm about to get into the content, but I want you to understand why I'm so excited that you come here. What is the intent? What is the end game? The end game is Unstoppable Business Alliance, where we eventually band together at such a powerful level that we have a seat and a voice at the table with our government, that they can't come in and tell 60% of the GDP that we are non-essential. There's no company bigger than us. There's no company in the world that will ever be bigger than all of us. There's no company that exists or ever will exist that is bigger than our small business community. So we got to stand up for each other. Okay, you could do that. JasonSisneros.com. It's got all of the stuff that you can. I've got consulting on there. I've got a growth course that we did. There's a lot of growth course graduates and participants that show up here on Saturday for great reason. And so Built to Exit.biz is my next book. And that's really going to start that, where I'm going to start allowing in. We've got about a group of our first 10 that are formulating right now. Our first 10, I'm going to start training business coaches in general, and consultants, how I do what I do to get the predictable results for companies that we have over time. I want to train the people that are working with the small businesses. I want to train the small businesses that are trying to fight and trying to work this stuff out. By the way, you can join all that stuff. You can buy, the education, or you can just come here on Saturday. I get consistent messages about this show that this 1 hour is more powerful than massive programs that they pay $10,000 for out there. This just 1 hour. And I'm proud of that, and I want to continue that. I want my voice and my strategies to be an act of rebellion, to be a tool, to be a weapon for you and your family to be able to be free. Okay? So let's get into it, right? Let's talk about one of the things that I heard over and over and over again, and I wanted to address directly is the title of the show, The Power of Asking for Help. And so I dove in, and I started to wonder. I did a little bit of research on why, because remember, you are unique. If you're listening to the show, you have a business, you are unique. 33 million people own businesses in this country out of 330 million, right? Out of 330 million in this country, 33 million companies out of 330 million. And so you're unique. And what that group of people, what I've noticed over time is that we are leaders. We are the people that take personal responsibility. We don't have the luxury of being victims, even though a lot of this community has been victimized over time in different ways because of their skin color, because of their gender, because of their upbringing, because of their parents. All of the different things have been victimized, but they fight this battle so that they can free themselves, and their kids and their generations after them don't have to suffer the same results. It's why I do the rescues. I freed myself financially, so now I can go on any mission anytime when the phone rings to go get a child that has been abducted and being traded for money in the sex trade. I can write checks for women of domestic violence. I can help feed people around the world with Feed a Billion. I can do these things because I freed myself financially. So let's talk about what are one of the biggest things. Like, as a leader, you yourself, know this, that you get to a place where you're leading and you're started your business and you are expected to have the answers. And this starts to create a rhythm of being the person that people come to for answers. And so that kills a necessary portion of us called vulnerability. It happens over time. It kills a little piece of us called vulnerability and the ability to ask for help because we're expected to have the answers. Our clients expect us to have the answers. Our employees expect us to have the answers. Our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, they expect us to have the answers because we're now a business leader. Our kids come to us for the answers. Any charity that you might be, they come to you for answers. And so we start to believe a little bit of a lie that we know everything. And right there is when your trajectory is key. You're either moving up or you're moving down. There is no stasis, by the way. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I'm just flatlining. No, you're not. You're going down. And you want your trajectory. The purpose of these shows is so that you can continue the trajectory upwards. Incremental improvement is the key to success, long-term success. Not big swings, not like, oh, I've got AI and now I'm going to make $72 million. Oh, I'm going to buy that book from that guru that's out there and now I'm going to be worth $100 million. Oh, go from $1 million to $100 million. It's all complete and total bullshit. There are unicorns out there. I'm not one of them. Okay. It has been incremental, hard-fought gains, 1,000 ways to screw up and about 40 to get it right over time. And so when we start thinking about that, ourselves in the leadership position, we start to think about losing that key component, one of those key components, which is vulnerability, the vulnerability to ask for help. So let's go through why this is so powerful, right? A lot of times, and again, the premise is that asking for help reveals weakness. And there is no room for weakness as a business leader. Think about that for a second. We can't reveal our weakness because we can't reveal weakness to other people. But I want to go through there. It's important that who you reveal that weakness to and how you reveal it is as important as knowing that it's a key part of your success. So let's go through a few of the reasons why you might be afraid to ask for help. Fear of judgment. Deathly afraid of being judged. Deathly afraid. And remember, the flip side of that is there's a hashtag that I'm well known for that is nobody cares. The only reason that we have a fear of judgment is because we think the people out there are thinking about us all the time, and they're not. They're thinking about their own problems. Now, you may be a problem because you're succeeding, because you're doing things that they're not doing, because you're getting up in the morning, you're taking care of your body, you've got a great relationship, you're working on your income, you are a leader, you're challenging yourself, and you are becoming different incrementally over time, thereby surpassing and outpacing your peers. That causes jealousy. And so if you have a fear of judgment, that shit has to go away. But that's a fear of judgment. It exists. The second one, pride and ego. I see this so many times. I've been a turnaround specialist for God knows how long now. and one of the first things, there's a reason why people don't call Anton J, or when they do have a conversation with me, Joe can testify to this, how many conversations we've had over the years with business owners who think that more sales is going to be the answer to their business success. Who think, but that they're puffed up because they have believed for too long that they have all the answers. It takes an act of humility to even be on the phone with Anton J, or to ask for help from somebody that knows business better than you. Pride and ego are a killer. But that stops us from asking for help, our pride and our ego. Fear of rejection. Being rejected. You ask somebody for help and they say no. We're deathly afraid of the fear of rejection, but if you owned a business for long enough, you understand that rejection is just one of the steps. It's necessary in the process of succeeding. Fear of rejection, the desire for autonomy. Okay, this is another reason why you wouldn't ask for help. I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to do it by myself. You want to be autonomous because maybe you worked in a corporation. Maybe you had a overbearing parent. Maybe you had, and you just want to do this shit by yourself. And that's why there's so many companies out there that don't have any employees. The average company that doesn't have any employees is doing about $80,000 a year. The average company with employees is doing $360,000 per employee. Again, there's a structure that needs to be built. We talk about being architects here. We talk about that type of thing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to do this by yourself. You're not going to free yourself by yourself. Now, I know there's tools. I know there's things. I know there's people that are doing well. And if you are one of those people, you desire autonomy more than you do more money. Maybe you've got the amount of money, and I'm not talking to you. But I am saying that if this is a weakness, it's an area for you to dig and ask yourself why you're doing this by yourself when there's a lot of people who need jobs. 60% of the country is employed by people like you that get the systems, the processes, the assets built so that they can then hire somebody and increase that revenue and speed their trip to their end game, which is freedom. Okay? Lack of trust. Now, this one I understand. We have a fear of asking for help because of a lack of trust. This I understand. And I'm going to ask Tony Watley about this here at the end of the show. Is this one I understand because people that are offering business advice quite often, and I'm going to go ahead and say the number 10% because I feel generous today. I feel a little bit happy. You know, normally I would say 98%, but I'm going to be generous today and say 90% of the people teaching about business have never owned their own company outside of them selling the bullshit that they're selling to other people about how to increase their business. If all of these gurus were so good, if all of these gurus and all of the people that are advertising and showing their Maseratis and all this other guy, if they were so good, why is there still a 95% failure rate? And why, if you dig into their clients are not part of the 5%. They are the constant rotation of the people who come in and go out of business. Last year, 1.4 million companies started. Only 487,000 of them succeeded. There was a net gain of businesses of only 180,000. Those numbers are terrible. That means the advice that people are getting aren't even getting them through the first year. Okay? So, lack of trust. I understand that. We're going to go through some ways to combat that and how to do your due diligence and the 4 or 5 questions that I think you should be asking when you do ask for help. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. Okay, but another one, social norms and cultural factors. If you come from a blue-collar family and you decide to start your own business, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. They're going to be like, what are you doing? You need to go to work for a company and retire. Right? You need to work there for years. Because that's the social norm or the culture that you came from. All you have to do to avoid that, by the way, is to join a community like this. We're all crazy. We are all crazy. 33 million companies, right? In a 330 million person country. We're a little bit different. We're a little bit off. We rolled the dice on 95% almost guaranteed failure. To have the slightest chance of being the 5%. Not wanting to burden others. We don't ask questions. We don't ask for help because we don't want to burden somebody else. Because we are self-starters. We do take personal responsibility. Lack of awareness. Okay, this is a big one. This is another big one with companies out there that think that they don't need help. It kind of ties back into ego, but it's a little different. Because lack of awareness or denial, sometimes individuals may not realize that they need help or are in denial about their situation. I have a name for this. Joe knows it very well. The lack of awareness or the refusal to acknowledge the problem, we call them walking dead. We call them walking dead. They're companies that still exist, that they're still transacting, but they're just not out of business yet. They're out of business. It's like the zombies of companies. Revenue's dropping, people are quitting, key clients are walking out the door. They're walking dead. I built a career as the Lazarus for dying companies. The Lazarus, bringing them back from the dead, right? Which is a great storyline for it being Easter weekend. Right? That was my job, was to bring dead companies back to life or to help other companies. Now it's to accelerate companies that may be stuck, right? Trying to get to the next level, whatever it is. We just had an amazing, we actually broadcast last weekend, 2 hours earlier than we normally did, from a client that we've been working with for several years that is absolutely crushing it. Absolutely crushing it. You've got Bada Fulkerson out in San Diego, came to us, humility, right? Already doing really well. And then just accelerated their growth to free the owner. Dan Fulkerson, you can look him up. You can find any of these people, by the way, on my LinkedIn, a great tool for you to go to LinkedIn and look at people's recommendations. You can't fake that shit because those are real people, real companies, real people that you can reach out and ask questions of. Okay. So the fear of losing privacy, if you get too big and you become a target, this is why we have shitty leaders in our country right now, because everybody's afraid. Like normal people, the people that are listening, the people that are in this room, think about this to yourself. People that are watching this on replay, think about this for just a second. Even if you had a desire, let's say that you had a desire to say, I don't like the way that the country's going. I want to step up and do my civic duty. And I want to run for business, or I want to run for Congress, or I want to run for senator, or I want to run for president. And you look at that situation and you go, oh, I want to change the country, because ultimately you go back to what Benjamin Franklin said. You're supposed to go to government. It's supposed to be a sacrifice. You're supposed to set no laws against yourself. And then you're supposed to go back to private life. But now, think about it. Anybody that's in here, go leave a comment, right? Leave a comment. Would you run for public office today? And if the answer is no, this fear of losing privacy, because they attack. They destroy. I don't care. There are hate groups for Mother Teresa. And some people, if you haven't gotten over the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of all of these things that we're talking about, why you don't ask for help, are the same reasons why there's no way that a sane person would run for office in this country right now, unless they're corrupt, unless they've got the money to cover their sins, because there is nobody walking amongst us that hasn't made a mistake, either business-wise, relationship-wise, drugs, alcohol, car crashes, DUIs, all of the things. But you know all of that stuff's going to come out in public, and the reason why you don't want to ask for help is because you might ask the wrong person, and they go, oh, guess what? Sally's asking for help. I think she might be having problems in her business. And so rather than asking for the help, guess what? We just don't do it. Past experiences. All right. This is a big one. The reason why some of us don't ask for help is because of past experiences. We asked for help. We got shitty help. It didn't help. Not only did it not help, it made things worse. Past experiences. This is where due diligence comes in, and asking the right questions to get the help from the right people. Okay, past experiences. Don't judge the woman that you're with or the man that you're with right now by the one that you dated before. This was a big one for me. I'm now happily married to an amazing woman. And had I brought my baggage with me from past relationships, I wouldn't be in the relationship that I'm in right now. I wouldn't have the constant joy of waking up to the most amazing woman that ever walks the planet. Same thing for her. Same thing for you in business. Just because you got some bad advice, just because somebody made fun of you, just because somebody was like lying about when you asked for help that you were actually in trouble, or don't judge your next decision by that because you need help. You do need help. I need help. I constantly am, the people that are here, I'm constantly reaching out to them and asking them and putting problems in front of them. You know, having Joe be the president of Anton J is a constant conversation between him and I of, are we in the right direction? Are we doing the right things? To be able to be vulnerable with each other and him with me. And the last one is anxiety. Okay? The last one is anxiety. We don't ask for help because we have anxiety, or what I think has become a common term, mental health, right? We're constantly stressed out, and we know that when we ask for help, let me write this down maybe. When we ask for help, we know that we have to maintain at least the income that's coming in right now. And if I ask for help, I'm going to have to do more to change, to shift. This is a big one that we've seen with a lot of our clients. Is it's like, Jason, oh my gosh, like blah, blah, blah. We see the path, but for a period of time while you're involved in the turnaround, while you're building out assets, while you're actually architecting and then general contracting your business to be in line with the 5% that have the assets built and that can free you time-wise and money-wise, that it's going to take some extra work. And so that anxiety tends to drag us into not asking for help because we know that there's going to be more work, different work, having to change behaviors, trying to change beliefs, those types of things that are going to be very near to impossible for somebody if we're constantly anxious. One of the things that happens, we do a deep dive on the Anton J side of things. There's a growth course. We talk about it in there. But on the other side of the growth course and with the deep dive with Anton J, when we come into the business, one of the biggest things that we see is shoulders drop. And we hear this one word, clarity. I now have clarity on how to actually build my end game, how to use this tool and how to build the parts and the pieces in such a way that it will actually get me where I want to go. Instead of throwing mud against the wall, going to this seminar, buying that book, and having there be conflicting advice and conflicting ideas, right? You get a clear path. And clarity radically reduces anxiety. It's one of my favorite things that I see happen after we do a 3-day, very invasive deep dive with customers. I love it. And then the phone calls that we get and the emails that we get from people that like you that are listening live. There's a lot of graduates here actually today, and people that are going through it is your shoulders drop, the anxiety leaves, and you have clarity about how to do what you want to do. Okay. So, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to give you some stories from history. Okay. I want to give you some stories from history so you can see yourself. The great thing about stories is we can always see ourselves in it. Okay. And I want to talk, I broke it down into 3 people that didn't ask for help and what the outcome was. And I broke it down and then into 3 that did ask for help and how that helped them thrive. And you can see this in other people. You can see it around you. You can see all of the different things that are going on. But a lot of you know that I love the military history. And one of the ones that I studied and a while back that immediately popped to the top of my head when I started thinking about having this conversation about the fear of asking for help was Napoleon Bonaparte's Russian campaign in 1812. Napoleon invaded Russia without heeding the advice of his advisors and generals who were familiar with the harsh Russian winter and the logistical challenges it posed. His failure to seek and accept help and advice led to the catastrophic loss of his army and marked the beginning of his decline. Now, if you really read anything about Napoleon, if you read it, I haven't watched the movie yet. I'm sure it's historically correct. But if you read anything about him, came in, had a really great idea. Think about your business, right? Think about your own journey. Had a really great idea, gathered some people around him that thought the same way, that believed in the outcome and believed in the end game, and joined him. And what happened was he got more and more egotistical, and asking people for help less, and thinking that his ideas were the final word on success, which culminated in him trying to invade Russia at the wrong time of year with not enough people, and a whole bunch of mistakes were made because he didn't ask for help. He was getting advice from his generals. He was getting advice from people around him to tell him, let's not do that. We're going to get our asses kicked. And sure enough, he did it anyway and got his ass kicked. Custer, the battle at Little Bighorn, 1876. Custer's refusal to wait for reinforcements and his underestimation of the Native American forces led to a devastating defeat at the Battle of Little Bighorn. His failure to collaborate with other military leaders and seek additional support contributed to one of the most famous military failures in U.S. history. Failures can be historic. Then I wanted to bring it back to, this is one that I think about always, a lot of times. There's a lot of different examples of businesses that get into this mode, but one business that you will all recognize, and I mean, maybe not if you were born after, I don't know, some of you younger folks out there, you might not know the name of this company. It's called Kodak, right? Kodak was once a powerful, it was like the name. Like it was like picture Kodak, picture Kodak, picture Kodak. They were the standard. They were the biggest company out there. And it was a powerhouse in the photographic film industry. They failed to adapt to digital photography, despite having developed the first digital camera. Think about this. They developed, one guy in their company, by the way, this is a great story if you want to dig into it and read more about it. One guy came and said, look, I've got this digital, they created it. Kodak created it. Leadership's reluctance to seek external advice and embrace the digital revolution, fearing it would cannibalize their film industry, led to the company's significant decline and eventual bankruptcy in 2012. That was a powerhouse company, refused to ask for help, and went out of business, which when it went out of business, by the way, and a lot of people are used to companies going out of business quickly these days. AI companies come and go. There's all of these things that we see, but Kodak was something that you could hang your hat on. And they got caught up in the arrogance. They got caught up in the management instead of leadership. They got started to protect their little fiefdom instead of developing and maintaining and demanding a performance-based organization. They died. The company completely went out of business. That's a massive loss, by the way. Then I had some people that I wanted to know, that came to mind when I was thinking about people that did ask for help. Henry Ford in the assembly line changed America. One of the first guys to ever think, if I pay my people that are on the assembly line that are working for me enough, ethical capitalism 101, if I pay them enough, then they can afford the thing that they're building, thereby creating an entire new customer base. Brilliant. Think about that these big multinationals are trying to pay people less. They're not only trying to pay people less, y'all, they are trying to replace people with, guess what? AI, robots, right? Technology, all those type of things, and simultaneously trying to push themselves away from the customer and what we desire, because they have an advantage with dirty, corrupt politicians that are setting laws that push away from innovation. Business is supposed to be creative destruction. Companies are supposed to come into business, get too big, go out of business. A small upstart comes up, takes their place. They're supposed to go out of business, and then somebody comes up. That's creative destruction. One of the greatest things that exists. in the world of entrepreneurism. But you bastardize that, right? F.A. Hayek talks deeply about this in the Constitution of Liberty. But Henry Ford, while he's credited with inventing the assembly line, it was actually the result of collaboration. That's asking for help, by the way. Collaboration, asking for help. Collaboration, asking for help. And input from the various individuals, including key employees like William Clan, who after observing the disassembly of meatpacking plants, suggested the concept to Ford. Ford's willingness to listen and integrate this idea from his team revolutionized the automobile manufacturing and solidified Ford Motors Company's success. Abraham Lincoln and his team of rivals. President Lincoln famously filled his cabinet with political rivals, including William Seward. This is amazing reading, by the way. Amazing reading if you want to go back and dig into the history of this, including William Seward, Salmon Chase, Edward Bates, who had opposed him during the presidential nomination by seeking their counsel, asking for help. By seeking their counsel and involving them in decision-making, Lincoln demonstrated an unparalleled level of humility and inclusiveness. Asking for help takes humility and requires inclusiveness from brains that are not your own, from ideas that are not your own, leading the United States through its most challenging period, the Civil War, with wisdom and a multitude of perspectives. Then this last one is a really great story. Ernest Shackleton. Again, these are fun stories for you to stop doing the scrolling on Instagram and actually dig into some history when you get a chance. Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic expedition. Ernest Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, was trapped and then crushed by ice during the Imperial Transantarctic Expedition of 1914 to 1917. He and his crew were stranded on ice floes for months. Shackleton's ability to maintain morale, ask for help, and his decision to seek help by embarking on a perilous journey over 800 miles of the Southern Ocean with a few crew members to reach a whaling station ultimately saved the lives of his entire crew. These are great stories. The key words in there: humility, maintaining morale, seeking help, asking for help, listening, integrating ideas from other people, surrounding yourself with well-meaning folks, right? So let's get into what I believe the solution is, right? This is the note-taking part, right? So here's the questions that I ask. Before I ask for help, I know that I have to ask for help, by the way. I know that this is part of the entire journey for me. I know it inside and out. I know this to my core at a cellular level that I have to ask for help. I'm not ashamed to do it. I don't have any of those things that we talked about were the reasons why we weren't doing it, okay? I don't have any of those issues. I don't have a fear of judgment. Those of you that know me know that I absolutely could care less. Hashtag nobody cares, so therefore I'm going to do what I'm going to do. My pride and ego, I do my best. I'm very certain about the things that I know, but I can tell you that I do my best to exude the mindset of humility so that I can ask for questions. I am not afraid of rejection. As much as I like being by myself, I know autonomy does not help for changing the world. I do have an inherent lack of trust, but that leads me to the questions I'm about to tell you that you should ask. I do have an inherent lack of trust for many, many reasons, and it's healthy, by the way. It's healthy not to trust everybody. Blanket is ignorance, but to have a healthy trust but verify sort of mentality is extremely helpful. Social norms, could care less. I came from nothing. I was broke. My family was broke. I stood in line for government cheese and with food stamps with my mom, watching her be embarrassed. So I could care less about the social norms. Not wanting to be a burden to others. I will never be a burden to others. When Joe can testify to this if he wants to come up and speak here in a minute, but I don't unload my problems on other people. A lot of times people are telling you their problems over and over and over again, using them as an excuse for non-performance. Lack of awareness or denial. Some people would say that I can be in denial sometimes, but I think that you have to have a little bit of denial or the crazy ones, that change the world, but also balancing that with measurement and asking for help. and asking for feedback from people that think completely opposite of you. Fear of losing privacy. I lost my privacy a long time ago. You know why? Because I wrote a book. I wrote a book that outed myself, and then I constantly did podcasts talking about the mistakes that I'd made. Because I don't want anybody, if you hear something about me, I want you to say, he already said it. He already told us that. It's already factored into my decision. Okay. Past experiences have informed me to be intellectually. We're playing a sport that's an intellectual sport, and my past experiences have informed me not to be afraid, but to be more wise. Okay. And anxiety and mental health. Some of you may question my mental health sometimes, but at the end of the day, I live in joy. That's my home. That's where I spend most of my time. And that's where I demand that the people around me have that as their home as well. Okay. So here's the questions, and then we're going to get into Q&A with the rest of the crew that is live and on stage in Twitter. So question number 1, when you're asking for help from somebody that is purportedly has the piece of information, tool, technology, information, coaching, those types of things, what is their intent? Most of us are because we feel like we've lost the ability, but most of you out there watching this, especially my audience, right? Especially my audience, have massively tuned bullshit detectors. Okay. And you can tell what somebody's intent. Are they intending to make a sale to you, or are they intending to help you? What is their angle? It's another great question. What's your angle? Is your angle, now if I'm paying for advice or I'm paying for help when I'm asking for it, what's their angle? If I'm asking for advice from a friend or from somebody that's local to me or whatever it is, what is their angle? Right? What are they going to benefit? Is their information, because if you're selling, I'll just use the guru industry for just a second, okay? If you are hiring somebody that's a business coach or business consultant, then you have to ask yourself, what's their angle? And their angle should be, and your business should be, around 3 principal questions. How can I help somebody make money? How can I save them money? Or how can I radically, measurably improve the quality of their life? If that's their angle, you have no problem, right? No problems whatsoever. That's a person or an organization that you can do business with, because they're wondering, their primary driver is how can they make you money? How can they save you money? Or how can they radically improve the quality of your life measurably? Okay. Question number 3, what is their track record? Okay. This is why I love LinkedIn. You can go and find the bullshit artists because they either have their mom or their best friend, or those are the reviews that they have, or they have no reviews whatsoever. Then I know that their track record, I still may use them. I still may hire them, but I know the truth. I'm making a conscious decision that this person, this organization may not be able to help me, but I want to give them a chance, right? Because those are the reviews. You want to talk to customers, especially big decisions, like somebody coming in and fiddling around with your family's future. What's their specialty or core competency? Okay, I'm going to pause here and I want you to write this down. Okay, pause the video, get a pencil out, do whatever you have to do, but get ready to write this down. If you want help with your business, you need to hire an architect. The most important, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on one of the podcasts, the most important person in the process of building a home that you want to last for a long time, or you want to turn it into an asset that has good resale value, or you want it to stand the test of time because you want it to stay in your family, whatever it is, it's the same premise of your business. You want to hire an architect, somebody who knows all aspects and can design a blueprint that leads to your outcome. Because if you're dealing with somebody that's doing it for their outcome, or they have a specialty, and the example that I used before was underneath of the architect, you've got the GC. They know the most about what's going on, but they can't design the outcome. All they can do is coordinate and affect the building of the organization. An architect is not going to lay his hands on a screwdriver. They're not going to lay their hands on a trowel. They're not going to hang a piece of tile. They're not going to hang a piece of drywall. They're not going to put the electricity in. They're not going to put the plumbing in. They are going to design it and with the blueprint of your outcome in mind. Okay. That's who you want to hire or do business with if you want help with your company. Somebody who's an architect. Because what happens is you go, oh, I've got this person. I'm a business coach. I'm a business consultant. And what you do is you come out of the finance world. Well, you have, to you, you've got a hammer and everything looks like a nail. They're not going to understand the intricacies of hiring. They're not going to understand the intricacies of interpersonal relationships. They're not going to understand the sales perspective. They're not going to understand how all of that is interconnected with each other because they're not an architect. And that is nothing. This is why, by the way, I've built out the Built to Exit division for business coaches and for consultants, because I want them to be architects. We need more architects. There's 33 million companies that need our help right now. That's who I want to train. I want to train them to be architects. But if you hire somebody that, let's say that you hire a salesperson, that's like hiring your carpet layer in your business. That's like hiring a carpet layer to build your house. They've been in a lot of houses. They've got a lot of experience. They've been in the building community for a long time. Yeah, but they're carpet layers. Sales professionals are absolutely key when it comes time, just like a carpet layer, just like having the floor covering put in your house is key, but it's not the blueprint and it's not the architect. So what is their specialty or core competency? If you need help with your finances, by God, hire a finance guy that knows or a woman who knows what they're doing, right? If you need help with sales, by God, hire a professional at that sport. But the very first thing that you've got to do is you yourself as the business owner need to be the architect of your own business. And if you need help with the architecture and the strategies, then hire somebody that knows how to do that with all of those pieces in mind. Because if you hire a salesperson at the wrong time, just because you don't have enough money in the bank, you can crush your operations and be out of business faster than if you made no sales at all. Okay, so what's their specialty or core competency? Make sure that it aligns with your blueprint. If you don't have a blueprint, make sure you have one, and that starts with your end game. We've had multiple conversations about how to do that. Do they start at your end game? This is another question with whatever you're asking for help for. If it's your relationship, do they start with what relationship you want to build? Do they have the relationship you want to build? If you're asking somebody for help with your business, do they start with your end game, or do they have this thing that they learned in school and they're teaching you that one thing that they learned in theory, or have they been through it? I personally don't take any business advice from somebody who hasn't crashed a company before. Never. I will never do it. Okay? Do they start with your end game? And the last question is, are they an architect? And again, your physical body, let's say that you're trying to get six pack, you're in a relationship and you want your marriage is going south and you need help with it. Are they an architect? Do they know? Do they have the results, and have they architected a successful end game that you are trying to achieve? Those are the things that you need to ask yourself constantly. Those are the questions that I ask myself, and I know that they'd be of use to you. With the premise, okay, I'm going to wrap up here with understanding that the premise is you've got to ask for help. Now, we've gone through all of the reasons why. We've gone through all of the reasons why you wouldn't ask for help, the reasons why you should, the results both militarily and in business of not asking for help. And you end with this spot where the inception thought for you is going to be, I am going to go forward in the next 7 days. That's what we talk about in this show. This is what the training that we do is take whatever idea you got out of here, implement it for the next 7 days between now and the next show, and shoot me DMs on all of the socials or whatever it is, emails, on jasonsisneros.com. By the way, there's a little blue box at the bottom of all the pages when you go to jasonsisneros.com. If you need help from anybody on my team, you just fill in that box. It pops up a Calendly, and you can set an appointment to talk about your business or ask for help or, vet a decision that you're getting ready to make. We made that available over the course of the last week because we're getting so many requests. I wanted to make it easy for you to go there. Just go to jasonsisneros.com. Down at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a small little sliver of a blue box that says set an appointment with my team. Okay. Take advantage of that. It's very, very powerful. Okay. So that's the premise. And then ask yourself those questions that I said, the 6 questions that I brought up, and I'll read through them again. What is their intent? What is their angle? What's their track record? What's their specialty or core competency? Do they start at my end game, and are they an architect? Okay, those are the 6 questions. And do make that decision that you're going to ask somebody for help over the course of the next 7 days. It's crucial to your success. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, thank everybody. I'm going to go to my live audience here. I'm going to stop the podcast. And again, make sure you join us live. But I want to say thank you for everybody that's here live. I want to thank you for everybody that is watching this. You all sharing this information with people that you know that need it is restoring my belief in humanity. We all know we got sold a bill of goods. We all know that these multinationals are eventually going to put us all out of business, right? You know, the Walmarts and the Amazons and all of that. We know that that is going to eventually drain the ability for us to have independent access to capital. And we know that that takes away freedom from us, from our family, from our future generations. And so you're all rebels. You're all rebels. We are the act of you owning a business and staying open is a blatant act of rebellion. And you can quote me on that. Your belligerent refusal to be controlled is something that I love about you. That's why you're here week after week. That's why you watch these podcasts. These are not easy podcasts. They're not some, comedy show. They're not some entertaining movie that is sapping your time. This is adding value back to you so that you can modify your behavior, thereby modifying your results. And I just want to end the same way that I always end, which is with a giant thank you. I'm humbled. It excites me. It makes me do better research. It makes me work harder. It makes me have better conversations to know that every Saturday I've got to come here and deliver something that's going to help you move forward. We can also, we've got the growth course, which is 28 hours of the greatest business content you can ever find. We got Built to Exit for those of you that are coaches or consultants and you want to get better at your trade. And you've got jasonsisneros.com to see whatever else that we're doing. You can see where I'm going to be speaking live. You can see what podcasts I'm going to be on. I love you guys. I love this community. We're building towards UBA, Unstoppable Business Alliance. All of us doing business with each other. That will eventually we'll have our own representation at the seat in Washington, D.C. That's where this is all headed. That's why I'm still playing this game. I don't like bullies, and I believe that we have multinationals, big companies, and a centralized government that is looking at 60% of the GDP, and they're making a bad decision that they want to control us through our economics. I'm not going to let that happen not without a fight anyway. I'm not going to let that happen without a fight. So thank you all very much. Make sure that you share this. Make sure that you follow on whatever it is that you like to follow on. Join us on Twitter at the J Sisneros every single Friday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much and have a great day. Peace.